What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here with Speaking Lifestyle, and we are going to get going in terms of talking about strategy and everything you need to do to think ahead and be a chess grandmaster in this game. So I'm going to wait for the billions and billions of people to hop on, refresh this little feed here. Let's get going with this thingamajigger, this thingamabobber. All right, let's see. All right, I think we got about 10 billion people hopping on right now. I know that's more than there are in the world, but there's about 10 billion people. So I'm going to wait a few seconds for people to join. We're going to basically be talking about strategy today. I got this email a while ago, and someone asked some really good questions, like literally all the questions were really good. So essentially I was going to create like a whole new video just on these questions that Joe asked, but I'm going to do a Facebook Live instead. So this whole Facebook Live is going to be about strategy. What's up, Ricardo? How's it going? Is that D? All right. What's up, everybody? So, yeah, we're basically going to get into talking about strategy. And if you guys have any questions about anything, just kind of getting a couple things set up real quick. But if you guys have any questions about marketing, building your speaking business, make sure you ask the questions, but we are going to get going on strategy. So, Joe, he sent an email and he asked several questions. The first thing he asked, he said, let's see, I'd love to learn more about you. All right. Okay. So he said, I'd love to learn more about how you come up with your big picture strategy and like, where do you pull your vision? Like, where do you pull your vision from? The ultimate destination that you're going after. Strategy, I mean, in case you guys aren't thinking strategically, you're not thinking at all. You got to be thinking strategically because strategy is simply about looking ahead into the future and then bringing that back to right now so you know the exact steps to take. So when you can essentially look ahead into the future and bring that back and you're going along with the steps, what you're essentially doing is you're connecting the dots. You're saying, all right, here's what I want to accomplish. Then you connect the dots of all the activities that you're going to engage in to accomplish that thing. And so that's essentially what strategy does. It's like a chess grandmaster. The grandmaster, he's essentially studied thousands of games of chess games, so he can essentially just anticipate what's coming next no matter what move you make. That's kind of what you're doing with strategy. So that's basically what we're going to talk about today. Let me read that question again because I forgot exactly what it was. So he said, I'd love to learn more about how you come up with your big picture strategy. Where do you pull your vision from? Okay, so my big picture strategy, it was really simple. I sat down. I think a lot of people make this more complicated than it needs to be. You simply start at the end. You say, what's the thing that I want to accomplish? You start at the end. That was my basic strategy of in the beginning. And by the way, I do also want to mention that your strategy, your vision, all this stuff, it will eventually change. It can change and it will change. So it's not like you have to just say, here's my one strategy for the rest of my life, right? So in the beginning, my whole vision, my whole goal was to be an entertainer. That was the entire goal. In fact, it was a restaurant entertainer. That was my goal. It wasn't even like this big corporate entertainer. It was just doing like as many restaurants as possible. Then I realized, you know what, that's not big enough. So then I said, you know what, let me do corporate. Then I went to a speaker and so on, right? So my strategy eventually changed. And what I'm essentially doing with my vision and the goal is what you want to do is you essentially want to just decide. You say, here's the vision, here's the goal. So many people sit back and they think, what's my purpose in life? Like, what is my purpose? What am I meant to do in this world? What you're meant to do is whatever you decide to do. That's basically what your purpose is. What you're meant to do is what you decide to do. That's your purpose. You simply say, this is what my purpose is going to be. So what you're essentially doing, what I essentially did with the vision is I sat down and I said, okay, originally I was marketing myself just as an entertainer, as a speaker. Eventually I was looking up some marketing materials in terms of what other people were doing or what other people were talking about. I realized it was crappy ass speaker training, like crappy speaker training. The best speaker training was just information about how to sell from the stage. And a lot of these guys, they were great in terms of like actually teaching the stuff. Like, here's how you sell from the stage. The problem was that how do you get on a stage to begin with? And then a lot of speakers wanted to actually get paid gigs instead of just speaking for free and selling a product. So there was basically no information about that. So I realized this gap and I said, all right, I can just insert myself into that gap. And so that's kind of what I did. I simply decided that was my end goal. And what I'm essentially doing whenever I essentially have free time, like especially in the shower, I'm basically like thinking in terms of this is where I dream, right? So I picture in terms of like the reality that I'm essentially trying to create. I say, okay, here's the vision and here's what we're going to have, these offices and all that. And I'm like seeing all this in my head. That way I can really reverse engineer it. I'm not doing the law of attraction stuff, okay? I absolutely hate the law of attraction stuff. I absolutely hate it because these guys, they simply miscommunicated what you should actually do. So many people think all you got to do is just sit there and just visualize it and stuff is going to happen. That's not what you do. You simply just think in terms of where do I want to be. That's simply 1% of your 99%. As 1%, and then the rest is you actually doing something about it. So the reason why I don't talk about the vision and all that stuff too much is because I know a lot of people are going to confuse it with the law of attraction, and I absolutely hate what they communicated with the law of attraction with The Secret. I absolutely hate it. It's just not how the world works. Just absolutely not. It's not how science works. So essentially, what I'm essentially doing is I essentially say, here's the reality that I want to create, and I'm reverse engineering it. So I say, what are we selling? And then I'm kind of like reverse engineering it. And let's say this is the big goal, 5-10 year goal or something, right? Now I start breaking it down into as small as I possibly can. So I say, okay, I'm going to start just making sales on this one product. I'm going to start just getting on stages, just speaking on stages, mastering the process of getting paid to speak. So I just start there, and I see how that's going to eventually go to the very end. That's kind of what I'm doing with that. And then what I'm essentially doing, especially when I create a product, and this is what we talked about in Industry Icon, where I'm not just creating my vision, I'm creating the vision for everyone else. So like the vision that I have for everyone else in terms of speakers is we're just going to get everyone on a stage. So what I'm essentially visualizing is every speaker who joins my program, we get them booked on stages. And I picture every speaker like, all right, they're in this huge room and they're like, yeah. And that's basically the thing. They're like, thank you. And I picture that with all the speakers in my program. So that's kind of the vision that I'm creating for these guys, right? And so that's essentially the start of it. What's the other question he asked? How often do you focus on just a long-term strategy and direction? Okay, so basically, how long do I focus on this long-term vision versus everything else? What I'm essentially doing when I'm thinking about the vision, the strategy, is I think about the long term for a split second. Like I said, at 1%, it's literally just a split second. Like I'm in the shower and that's it, right? I'm thinking about that little thing. Then I start thinking about the activities. I focus more on the activities. The reason why I started doing this is because if you look at all successful people, like every single one, and if you ask them, did you think you would be as successful as you are 20 years ago? Like 20 years ago, did you think you would be where you are right now? Every single one of them will say no. Bill Gates has said no. Jeff Bezos has said no. Warren Buffett has said no. Michael Jordan said no. Every single one of them has already said no, let alone if you ask them, because they've already been asked. Every single one of them says no. Michael Jordan never thought he'd be the absolute best ever. Bill Gates, if you read the book by Paul Allen, his business partner, Idea Man, I think that's what it's called, he actually mentions how Bill Gates actually said, I'm pretty sure we can't get this business, Microsoft, to more than 35, 40 people. There's just no market for this thing. We can't get it bigger than 35 or 40 people. There's no way. And then when they did, he's like, you know what? I'm pretty sure we can't get 50 million in revenue. There's no way. It's just not that big. Then when they did, he's like, you know what? I'm pretty sure we can't. And so what happened is he was pretty sure that he couldn't get this big because it just didn't make sense at the time. Obviously, Microsoft became like so big they basically like broke it up. And so the reason why I don't try to plan out 10 years and all that stuff ahead is because it's impossible. You can't plan that far ahead. And so what I do instead is I think in terms of the activities. I think, okay, here's essentially the general vision of what I want to create. Now, here are the activities I need to do on a daily basis. So it's like, think about, like, let's say a basketball player or an NFL player, whatever. Think about someone in sports. They think, I want to win the championship. I want to get to the final frontier. I want to win the championship. If they keep thinking about that all day, every day, it simply won't do anything. On the other hand, if they say, I want to accomplish a championship, and then they do what Kobe did, where he's like, okay, I won't leave the gym until I make 1,000 shots per day. I just won't leave the gym. I'm going to make 1,000 shots per day. He practiced on the daily activities. Every day he woke up and he simply went to practice. Then he went to do whatever he would do. Then he practiced again and so on. He focused on the activities themselves. And so that's essentially what I'm doing. Essentially what I think everyone should do. When I started out trying to get on stages, I didn't sit there and try to visualize my way to get on a stage. I say, you know what? What's the one thing I should be doing day in and day out to actually get on a stage? That one thing was prospecting. It was simply building up that sales pipeline, contacting events. That was the one thing. So that's all I did all day, every day. I literally woke up every single day. I don't know, maybe 7 a.m., whenever. I woke up every single day and I would simply just say, all right, at first I started doing calls. I was like, all right, let me do some calls. Then I would start sending out emails, right? It was every day. Eventually, I started getting booked. It was really that simple. And so it's impossible to predict the future. What I'm essentially doing is very similar to what Warren Buffett and what Jeff Bezos mentioned. So Warren Buffett, he said his investment strategy is all about, it's all about the things that won't go away. And so he's like, what's going to always stay the same? He's like, I'm pretty sure men are always going to have to shave, or just people in general, they're just always going to have to shave, so I'm going to invest in Gillette, the razor business. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to always need insurance, so I'm going to invest in the insurance business. I'm pretty sure people are always going to chew gum, so I'm going to invest in the Wrigley's gum business or whatever. And so that's essentially his strategy. He was like, what doesn't change? And that's what he's going to invest in. It's one of the reasons why he doesn't invest in internet companies. Jeff Bezos said the same thing. He's like, instead of businesses thinking about what's going to change and trying to keep up with change, you simply need to think about what's going to stay the same for years and decades to come. And when you do that, you simply just work on that thing because it's always going to be there. And that's what I'm doing with the vision, with the strategy, where I say, okay, no matter what my vision or no matter what my strategy is, what are the things that I'm going to have to do day in and day out? Those things usually involve prospecting. It's my OASIS strategy that I mentioned in the last video. The OASIS, OACES. It's outreach, ads, content, emails, sales videos. Those are essentially the 5 things that I'm focusing on 24/7, all day, every day, nonstop, just all day, every day, right? Because those are the things that aren't going to change. I'm always going to need to do outreach. I'm always going to need to create ads. I'll pretty much always need to create content. That's the one that may not change. I'll pretty much always need to send emails and sales videos as well. And so that's how I'm thinking. A lot of people think, like, how do you determine your long-term vision, all that stuff. And I'm just saying, all right, my vision, my long-term thing is this. All right, I thought about that for a second. Cool, I'm good to go. Now, what are the actual activities I need to do to accomplish things day in and day out? That's where all my focus is at. Let's see. All right, Glenn said, nice to meet. Nice to make everyone live. All right. Andre, maybe it's just Andre. All right, cool. What's up? Let's see. Andre said, after we have a website, what's the number one thing you would suggest we focus on the most? So first off, all right, this is a good question. All right. So Andre, I think it's just Andre, maybe it's Andres. But he said after we have a website, what's the number one thing that you would focus on the most? Well, first, I would think, is it actually a really great website? That's the first thing, because I can't tell you how many speakers out there say they have a website or they have a good website, and then I look at it, I'm like, dude, come on, man. Come on. What is this, built like in the 1700s? Come on. What you thinking? So I can't tell you how many speakers do that. Like, literally how many speakers do that, right? So first thing I would say, is it actually a great website? But let's say you do have a great website, right? The next thing you have to do, and there's essentially only 2 things you have to do to build your business, is number 1 is the website. Number 2 is you're doing the event prospecting, the sales pipeline. So that's all I would focus on 24/7. After you have a great website, you need to have the sales pipeline. Let me show you what the pipeline is. All right, let's do this. So after you build out the website, you get this sales pipeline going. Let's see. All right, this thing right here. So after you have your website, You need to start contacting people and sending them to that website. So what you're doing is you build up a list of events that you want to contact. You contact them by sending out an email or calling them if you want. If they don't respond, you follow up. If they don't respond, you follow up, and so on. So if they do respond, you pitch them. And if they don't respond to the pitch, you follow up, and so on. And so this is essentially what you do after you have a great website. Your website is essentially it's your sales page. You're selling a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 product, aka your speech. How do you sell that product? It's with your website. When you have a great website, when you finally have that sales page up, now it's a matter of getting people to see that website. So now all you do all day, every day is your outreach. That's all you do. Do not create content. Do not do all this other stuff that everyone tells you to do. If you want to get on a stage, you have to contact people. It's that simple. And so that's literally all I would do. Let's see. Wani, I think that's how I say it. Wani. Hello, Wani. Wani. I think one or the other. All right. So that's essentially what I would do. After the website, I would just build out that prospecting, that prospecting process. And by the way, I do want to mention, the reason why I wouldn't focus on content or any of that stuff after I get the website and then you focus on the prospecting is because you have to master one thing first before you move on to all the other stuff. So sure, it sounds simple to just contact an event, but it's not that simple. You have to overcome the boredom that's going to happen. It's going to be boring as hell for you sitting there all day, every day, just sending out an email. Just, oh, stupid. That's literally what's going to happen inside of your brain. You're like, this is stupid. You're going to have to do that for months on end. So that's going to be one. You have to overcome the boredom. Second, you're going to have to learn how to actually pitch yourself, because everyone is a little bit different in terms of pitching. Like when I pitch me, I'm always pitching the entertainment factor, how I could do mind reading and all that. Not everyone can do that. So if you can juggle, if you can sing, if you can do none of those, you still got to learn how to pitch yourself. And so you have to learn how to do that right. You have to learn how to actually walk through the entire process. So like this whole thing is inside of your CRM, like the incoming, the lead, incoming, the questions, the quote, the contract, all that. This is your sales pipeline inside of your CRM. And so you have to practice getting used to this. Like, what do you do when you pitch an event and they say like, oh, okay, well, what do you charge? Now, most speakers, all they do, they just respond to that. You have to get used to responding to that and then putting that inside of your CRM in terms of, all right, let me now convert them into an opportunity in the CRM. Now let me do this in the CRM. And you have to practice all of that stuff inside of your CRM. And people think that all it is you're just contacting someone, but there's a lot more to it than that. And that's why so many people fail, because they think, I'm already doing it. I already have a website. I'm already contacting events. Like, you may be, but you're not doing it right. That's why you got to join the Speak Pro Academy, so I can show you how to do it right. Because if you do it right, you end up like Dave Davlin doing like damn near $250,000 in a year. He literally went from praying to God. If you look at his review, he's like, look, I literally sat down one day and I prayed to God that someone would come along showing me what to do. He literally went from praying to God to within a year doing $250,000. Is that average? Not even close. People who accomplish anything aren't average. That's the thing. So it's not average. Let's see. Mike said, let's see. Andrew said, would you mind looking at my website, giving me some feedback? Yeah, post your website. I'll take a look. Let's see. Mike said, how many sales emails would you recommend sending a day? You send all day, every day. Like literally all day, every day, minimum of 100 a day. So this is one of the problems that a lot of people have, is that they're just not contacting enough events. So I think one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs have in general is they just don't realize how hard it's going to be. They completely underestimate what it's going to take. I think everyone does this, no matter what. When you're starting, even when you're already an entrepreneur, you're good to go. You already do $1 million. You're like, all right, here's our next goal. You still underestimate what it takes. The difference is just people who underestimate it, they just keep going. Like certain entrepreneurs, they just keep going. They're like, oh, I thought I only needed to contact 20 people a day. They're like, this isn't working. Let me just keep contacting more then. And they just keep going. Whereas everyone else, they realize, oh, they're not getting the result. They're not getting the result that they want as fast as they want. And they start slowing down, which only makes it worse. Then they quit altogether. And so that's kind of what happens. But in terms of actually contacting with emails, the way I started out is I woke up, like literally, I wish my friend was here because I was living with a friend and his wife. I woke up, literally all I did, I sat down and I just contacted events all day, every day, literally. The only other thing that I did is I went down, like when they would cook dinner, I would go down, I'd eat, maybe we'd watch like a Battlestar Galactica for a little bit, a few episodes of that. We'd watch that, and then bam, I'd go back up and start contacting more. That's literally all I did. And that's why I tell people, you got to understand how many people you need to contact for this thing to work. Let's see. All right. So that's how you say, yeah. All right. So first time checking you out, really enjoying your emails. Cool. Thanks. All right. Let's see. Vince said, in your course, do you have templates, your program? Yeah, Vince, so Vince, if you look at the course has everything. It's literally a business franchise. Is literally what it is. So for example, here are the email templates, right? So if I go to the email templates, you'll notice that the pipeline that I just showed you. So this pipeline here, every part here has an email template associated with it. So email number 1, there's an email for it. Follow-up number 1, there's a follow-up for it. Then the email pitch and so on. And everything has a template. Like, here are the questions you ask the event. If they don't respond, here's a follow-up email. If they don't respond to that, here's a follow-up email. If you quote it and they don't respond, here's a follow-up email. Follow-up. So all this stuff, it's all email templates. And then we basically train you in terms of how to actually pitch yourself in the program. This is just one small aspect of the entire thing. So when you have this in place, like you put this in place once, you wake up every single day knowing what to do. Like whenever someone says, how much do you charge? You're right here. You immediately know what you should do. You immediately know, let me ask questions. If you ask questions and they don't respond, you immediately know what to do. You know, let me send this follow-up email. And so you know what to do every step of the way. That's why you need to have systems in place to where you don't have to think about it. You just do it automatically. So yeah, to answer your question, yes. So let's see. Lashana said, all right, Benji, are the stories of survival considered entertainment? Example, like how someone went from prison to professor. Yeah, Lashana, in terms of the stories of survival, you can essentially make anything entertainment. Like you can make anything entertaining, literally. It's just a matter of just being creative with it. Like a perfect example is like watching Disney. So Disney is really good at just making, or Pixar more specifically. So if you watch like Pixar, you watch like, you can look at their short clips as well, like their short videos. They just make it entertaining. Like it's insane in terms of how entertaining they can make something simple be. All right. So let's see. Molly said, how do you locate the events? All right. And then Michael Ross said, can you speak a little about how you made the transition from entertainer to motivational speaker? Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about those things, but I wanna answer Joe's questions as well in terms of the vision that I talked about. Let's see. So his next question, he said, how do you decide what fires? Okay, so I before I start answering his questions as well, one of the biggest problems I think a lot of people have is they're interested too much in the tactics and not in the psychology behind the tactics. It's why I always make that one quote from Sun Tzu where he says, all men can see the tactics whereby I conquer, or something like, all men can see the tactics whereby I conquer, but none can see the strategy out of which victory is evolved. So that's what he says. And so what happens is a lot of people want the tactics, and the tactics are important. But it's the strategy, it's the mind that you have that allows for that thing to happen. So with, like, for example, in terms of locating the events, to me, to me, locating the events is actually really, really easy. I feel like some weird is going on with this this screen here. Do you guys see my my computer screen or just me? I want to know, do you guys see the computer screen or just me? Let me know. Let's see. All right, I think this thing got all jacked up here. I can't show you guys. There we go. All right. Never mind. Okay. So where was I? Yeah. So the mind and all that. Okay. So the whole mind stuff, like let's say finding events, right? When I started doing this, to me, it was very easy to find events because my mindset was I'm not going to discriminate which events I find. Every event is a potential event. Every event is a potential customer because I understand how sales works. The way sales works is like, remember the funnel thing, right? So the funnel, there's the top of the funnel where everyone enters, and this top is very big. Eventually, it starts going down and gets really small, and the small part, the tiny part is where the customers are at, right? But to get to the customers, you have to start big. You have to start with that entire funnel. So I understood that from the get-go. So what I would do is I would just contact like a gazillion events every single day, right? And so in my mind, it was very easy to find an event because everything was considered an event to me. I can look out the window here. I see there's McDonald's over there, there's IHOP, there's SLS over here, there's Stratosphere over there, plenty of stuff downtown. So instantly, there's SLS, which has tons of events every single day. So I've instantly found hundreds of events just by looking at SLS. I look at McDonald's, I'm like, okay, that's another event. McDonald's, they must host events. They're pretty big. They have to host events. IHOP, maybe, you never know. I'll contact them anyways and see. Let's see. Walgreens is right over there as well. So Walgreens is pretty big. They got to host employee events. So instantly, just by looking out my freaking window sitting here, I found 100 events at SLS, one at McDonald's, one at IHOP, one at Walgreens. I just found 100 events by sitting here in 2 seconds, right? That was my mindset. What everyone else's mindset is, oh, how do I find events that pay speakers? How do I know that they pay? So they would essentially look online. If they looked online, they look and be like, does this event pay speakers? I mean, I don't know. Do they pay me? And they wouldn't even contact the event. They would literally sit there and just try to decide, am I going to get paid and everything, right? That wasn't me. And I think the reason that wasn't me is because what happened with my friend. So my friend Rich, what he literally did, this was back when the phone book was still around. We were talking about business, and he's great in terms of talking on the phone. He literally opened up the phone book, and he was like, look, I can just call any of these companies in this phone book, and we'll see about booking a gig. And within it was definitely under 10. I think it was about 5 or 6 calls that he made, and he booked a gig as an entertainer, as a magician. I was like, what the hell? Like, he just opened the phone book. He was like, all right, let me call this number. Yeah, hey, is this so-and-so plumbing company? Yeah, I was actually wondering, do you guys have like any employee events that you guys are hosting, that you guys maybe a Christmas event or something like that? Oh, okay, cool. All right, thanks. Call another one. Hey, how's it going? Is this the plumbing company? Okay, yeah, do you guys have an employee event? Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah, well, what are you guys doing with your employee events? Do you guys have entertainment? Do you guys have a band? What do you guys have? And he would just start talking to them. I'm like, holy sh. And then eventually he booked a gig. I was like, God damn. And so I think that shifted my mind in terms of like everything is a possible event. So what I would do in the beginning is that's literally all I did. Everything's a possible event. The only way to figure it out in terms of getting paid is by contacting them, by talking to them. That's the only way to figure it out. That's why I started contacting nonstop all day, every day. And so it's like when people say like, all right, how do you locate events? Locating events is really a state of mind. There is, if you go to, speakinglifestyle.com/Wade, I don't know what the actual thing is, but if you go to, speakinglifestyle.com and then go to search, and type in ways to get gigs. There we go. All right, let's see. Oops, got to click search. All right, so let's see. Where is it? Dang it, that's not the one. All right, there we go. How to find paid speaking. No, that's not the one. I don't know if this is the one. Yeah, this is the one. All right. So if you go to speakinglifestyle.com/finding-speaking-gigs, you will see, I think there's like 22 different ways to find speaking gigs. Okay. You can scroll through all this, tons of ways to find gigs. This right here is something very simple that you can use to find events. The problem that people have is they essentially start doing what I call where they qualify. They don't contact the events. They just qualify before they actually contact them, and all sorts of different stuff. So this is like 22 or 23 different ways to find events. I'll tell you right now, the way I find events is simply using Google. Like literally, that's all I do. I just do a Google search for keywords. And in fact, let me go back here. So I do a Google search for keywords. Where are the keywords at? All right. So like here, these keywords. So I have a document of keywords and hashtags that I use to find events that I put into Google or into Instagram or something like that. And I'll just look for events, and bam, I found a gazillion events. So when speakers would come up to me and say, I can't find events, I realized it was just the way that they were thinking. They were just thinking about it all wrong. And so that's why they struggled. So you have to just change the way you think about it. Let me answer this question by Joe here. Another question. So you said, let's see, what does a planning look like? Okay. So, okay, that was the other one. So he said, how do you decide what fires you will allow to interrupt your day? So this is why I went off on the whole mindset thing, right? So everyone wants to know about the tactics and the techniques and all that, which is important, but the mindset is the most important. So like, how do you know which fires are going to allow you to interrupt your day? Because throughout your day, you essentially need to have your head down where you say, here's the thing that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be contacting events all day, every day. That's the only thing I'm going to do. What's naturally going to happen is Facebook is going to pop up, and then bing, you get a thing, and then you get a text message or a phone call with bing, 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 all this stuff pops up, right? Or you just get hungry. So all this stuff is just going to pop up throughout your day, and you have to decide, like, should I do that thing? Should I look at this text message? Should I answer this call? Should I do this? Or should I just stay focused on this? And how do you know when you should actually move your focus away from the thing that you're doing? So essentially, this is the mindset thing, because in the beginning, when you're prospecting, when you're actually trying to contact events, what's going to naturally happen is you're going to get bored. You're going to naturally start to look at other things, your Facebook messages, text messages, all that stuff, and you have to make sure you get back to this thing. The way you determine if you can shift your focus to something else that pops up, like a fire pops up, is you essentially have to think, is this thing going to mess up the sales? So is it going to mess up my money? That's pretty much what you're thinking. Are you going to mess up my money? If you're going to mess up my money, then that's when you start paying attention to it. I remember reading this book where the guy was talking about time management, and he said, you essentially have to determine, is it an emergency for them or is it an emergency for you? So that's essentially what you have to think about, because a lot of people say, hey, I got this emergency, this thing is going on. And you're like, it can wait. That may be an emergency for you, but it can wait. And so the things that don't wait for me are things that mess with the money. It messes with the growth of the business. So let's say my entire website goes down. If my entire website goes down, I have to actually worry about that fire, because everything depends on the website. I'm contacting events, and then all of a sudden I say, hey, look at the videos on my website. My website goes down. Well, now it's like, shoot, dang, all right. So now I got to go fix this website. Or let's say ads, like when you're trying to build up your following, you're doing advertising, and then all of a sudden the ads, they mess up. And this actually happened recently, where for some reason our ad was doing great. It was $2 per lead, and then poof, out of nowhere, it went up to $7 per lead. I have no idea what the heck just happened. So when that happens, I essentially say, okay, I was doing this. Now I'm going to shift my focus to this, fix this thing real quick, then I'll get back to that, right? So that's kind of what you're doing. And then obviously, like little things like, let's say family or whatever, you can decide, all right, family's at the top, and then you can say, all right, the business is next, and stuff like that. So you can decide stuff like that. But what I'm essentially doing to figure out those fires is what's messing up with my money. That's basically what I'm thinking. Then you said, how do you decide if what you're doing now is what you'll focus on in your life in general? Okay. How do you decide if what you're doing now is what you'll focus on in your life? Okay. So essentially, this is kind of what I mentioned earlier, where I just decided, right? I decided this is what's going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is the vision. This is the focus. That's it. And then if I want to change it, eventually I'll change it. But right now I just said, that's it. That's my decision. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life for now. So that's literally the decision. In my mind, I do have a thing that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I truly believe that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, right? at a certain point, you never know, something may change. It's like, for example, let's say you decide you're going to do business for the rest of your life, then poof, tomorrow you have cancer. It's like, shoot, everything just changed at that moment, right? So you never truly know what can change, but essentially what I did is I just said, here's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Bam, that's it. I just made a decision. I think way too many people complicate this thing, and they just complicate it more than it should be complicated. It should be very simple. You say, this is what I'm going to do. Bam, you just do it. That's it. All right, so let's see. Vince said, you did a video. Whoops, cut that off. So he said, all right, you did a video a while back talking about pictures for your website and the app you use. All right, the app you use if you don't have pictures. Are you going to give some... Are you going to give some great ideas or shots to capture, insert? Wait, what? Hold on. All right, I got to look at this thing closer. Hold on. Where's the question? Let's see. All right. Vince said, he did a video a while back talking about pictures for your website and the app to use if you don't have pictures. And you gave some great ideas on shots to capture and insert on your pictures. Okay. So do you remember what video that was? Let's see. We did a video while talking about I do not remember what video that was, but it was probably a great video. And I was probably wearing purple. So look for the video where I was wearing purple. I'm just kidding. I don't remember what video it was, but in terms of like the apps though, so the apps that I actually use, let me show you the apps. So these are the apps that I use. There we go. Whoops, wrong way. All right. So those are the apps that I use. The main app that I use is Enlight, the one at the bottom there, the bottom middle. That's the main app that I use. I use Typorama a lot. And Snapseed, I like that one. So I use those most of the time in terms of apps. So let's see. You don't use pictures for your website. All right. And in terms of pictures for your website, if you don't have pictures, what you're essentially going to have to do is, well, you have to get creative. So you can like go to Shutterstock.com and buy some pictures there and just create like some cool image out of that. You can go to like a hotel. You can literally just snap a picture of a room, create some cool image out of that. So you essentially want to get creative if you don't have pictures, and you're going to use the phone apps to actually create those really cool images. All right, so let's see. Lisa said, dang, I think I'm going to need some glasses, man. I'm getting old. Getting old, man. Shoot, I'm going to have to go to an old folks home pretty soon. Let's see. Do you contact offering your signature speech or just pitch yourself and possibly create your new content for them? All right, so when I actually pitch, there's a couple things in terms of the actual pitch that you can do. Like I said, this is going to depend on you in general. So in the beginning, when I pitched, I essentially pitched me as an entertainer, combined it with speaking and all that, right? So that's essentially what I did. I focused on the entertainment value. Nobody cares about your content, by the way. Absolutely nobody cares about your content. What they're looking for is just a great speaker in general. They just want a great speaker. If events cared about content, they would hire real experts, like PhD people. They would hire people who came out of college and all that. That's where you get real content, not from people who read a book and then decided they're an expert. If they really wanted content, they would literally say, all right, instead of us bringing in the CEO to Salesforce and talking about sales, let's bring in an actual salesperson who works with Salesforce, right? That's what they would do if they really were interested in content. Instead, they say, let's bring in the CEO of Salesforce because we know he's going to attract people to the event, and that's essentially why they bring him in. Let's bring in Les Brown because we know he's just a great speaker in general, and everyone's going to leave there saying, wow, that was an amazing-ass event. So they're not really looking for content. Even if they say they are, trust me, they're not. They're not looking for content. They're essentially looking for entertainment. They want people to leave with an experience saying that was one of the greatest events ever. You had the greatest speakers there. That was the greatest event ever. If they were looking for content, they would simply look to see who has the best information. That's all they would look for. So they're not looking for content. So when I pitch, I'm essentially pitching the experience that I provide. And that's why I talk about entertainment. And also that's what I did in the beginning. Now I'm doing a lot more than just pitching events. So remember, in the beginning, all I did was I would sit down every day, all day, every day, just literally send out emails. I'm just like, all right, bam, bam, bam. And I'd come out with a pitch and everything. Nowadays, I don't have time to do all that. So my pitch has evolved. It's evolved from doing this whole customized pitch to essentially doing a very short, sweet, to the point pitch where it's like, hey, I've got a great speaker for you. His name is Benji Bruce. You can see his videos here. Bam. It's like straight to the point. The other one that I do is where I say, hey, I've got a great speaker for you. His speaking fee is anywhere from 20 to 30,000. And then here's his videos. Would you be interested in bringing them in? Or like, do you guys have the budget for that type of speaker? And the reason why I do that is it gets a lower response rate, but it gets people who are way more qualified. When someone instantly knows what I charge and I say, do you guys have the budget for that? And they say yes, it's instant qualification. And so it's also like a justification of them kind of saying, all right, we just looked at his website and everything. We also agree that he's worth that much as well. So it's like the pitch now is very different than the pitch that I had before, just because my situation's changed. So when you're pitching, you simply have to think, all right, I call it the Frank Sinatra sentence. You got to think, what's the one sentence that you can say that's going to have all the credibility in the world? So if, let's say like I'm talking to real estate agents, right? I'm talking to a group of real estate agents and I say, all right, hey guys, how's it going? My name is Benji Bruce. I'm a real estate agent and I built an 8-figure real estate business by the time I turned 29. I'm going to show you guys everything that I did to get to that point. In one sentence, I built all the credibility in the world. And so that's what I would include in my pitch. In my pitch, I would now contact a broker, Remax or whatever. I would say, hey, Remax, what do you think about bringing in the greatest speaker in the world, Benji Bruce? He built an 8-figure real estate business by the time he turned 29, and he's going to teach your realtors how to do the exact same thing. It's one sentence, just real quick, straight to the point, credibility. So that's essentially what you have to think of when you're pitching an event. All right, so let's see. Molly said, poster on your wall is an awesome, all right. Wait, poster your wall is an awesome news site I found with great testimony or great templates. Poster your wall, okay. Yeah, so in terms of templates, if you guys just look for templates, the key thing, I've never seen that website, but I do want to say I can guarantee there isn't a single website with better templates than me. Just because I've literally done this my entire life. I've seen every possible response that someone can respond to when you're contacting them to get booked as a speaker. It doesn't matter if they say, oh, we only hire industry-related speakers, fill out this form, we don't pay speakers, we're not interested, you're ugly, stop messaging me. I've seen every possible response, and I have a response to every possible response. So in mine comes from actually doing it. The reason why I started Speaking Lifestyle is because I noticed all these speakers who were doing training didn't actually do it themselves. That's how I knew they had bad information. So if as a matter of fact, perfect example. So I was reading this book called Bad Blood. Well, listening to the book. It's called Bad Blood, and it talks about the Elizabeth Holmes lady who built the Theranos company. I don't know if you guys heard about that, Theranos. But Theranos, what they claimed was that with one drop of blood, like you would prick your finger, like with diabetes, you prick your finger, and with one drop of blood, they'd be able to test like every single disease imaginable. They'd be able to test all sorts of different things. They could test if you had cancer, if you had AIDS, if you had like all sorts of things with one prick of your blood. Now, the medical community is like, that's not possible. There's no way. Like, people who actually knew stuff, they're like, that's not possible. But this lady, Elizabeth Holmes, she essentially said, well, it is possible because we've done it. Like, we literally did it. That's what our business is doing, right? It just so happened she was a huge fraud. Like, they basically, they had like a $9 billion valuation. They almost went into all the Walgreens in the world. or maybe in the US or whatever. They almost went to all the Walgreens. It turned out they were a big fraud. Now, the people who knew the information, the people who knew the medical information, who were the experts, the real experts, when they heard Elizabeth Holmes talk, they realized she had no idea what the hell she was talking about. She had no information whatsoever. She sounded smart because other people didn't have the level of knowledge she had. So let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, everyone's knowledge is at a 1 because you don't know what the hell you're talking about when it comes to medical stuff. Her knowledge was at, let's say, a level 2 or 2.5. Everyone else's knowledge in the industry was at like a level 9 or a 10. So the people who are at level 9 and 10, they easily call BS on this lady. They're like, that's bullshit. Like, what the heck? What is she talking about? That's BS. But people who are at a level 1 in knowledge, they don't know the difference. And that's how I felt with speaking, with a lot of speaker training. I said, here are guys, speakers, who have a level 2 or 2.5 knowledge. They're teaching people with no knowledge, and they're teaching horrible information. This horrible information only goes by because the people without information don't know what's good and what's bad information. I've been doing this forever. I can instantly spot when someone knows their stuff. Like when someone says, when you ask someone, how do you get gigs? And they say word of mouth, what that really means is I have no idea. Like when someone says word of mouth and referrals, what that really means is I don't know how to get gigs, but they won't tell you that. And so I don't know why I went on this tangent. I think it was because of templates. Anyways, the reason why my templates are a million times better is just because I've been doing this for so long. So let's go on to the next thing. Let's see. Lisa said, do you contact offering? Oh, okay, I already did that one. Let's see. All right. Okay. Let's see. All right. So Vince said, I'm new and I want to get into the speaking industry, but don't know what niche I want to focus on. Does your course help newbies develop their skills? And yeah, I mean, Vince, so let me go here. Let me show you guys this. So these are the modules here that shows you how to build everything from scratch. In the beginning, we start out with picking your market. Then we talk about getting into the mind of the people who hire you. Then you start building out your website, and then eventually you start contacting the events, all the way to a point where you can build a team. Okay. If you go through the process, it is literally from scratch. The whole Speak Pro Academy is all about building from scratch. One of the things that a lot of people struggle with is the picking the niche, just because once again you're overthinking it. You're literally overthinking it. I was watching a video the other day, and I don't know why a lot of speakers do this, or just a lot of people in general like do this when they're training stuff in marketing or something. But they do things like this. They say, what business are you in? Tell me, what business are you in? The person's like, I'm a real estate agent. I'm like, okay, you over there, tell me, what business are you in? I run a burger franchise. You over there, tell me, what business are you in? Oh, I'm an insurance agent. Yes, I'm an insurance agent. And then the speaker on stage is like, no, you're not a realtor. You're not an insurance agent. You're not a burger franchise. You're in the people business. All you guys here are in the people business. So from now on, when someone asks you, what do? You don't tell them you're a realtor. You don't tell them you're an insurance agent. You tell them, I'm in the people business. I provide value. Now, I thought about that and I was like, why do people do that? If that actually happened in real life, if I walked up to you and I said, what do you do for a living? And you said, I'm in the people business. I provide value. I look at you, I'd be like, what the are you talking about? What the hell does that even mean? And so people do this all the time when they're trying to describe themselves as a speaker. They're trying to find their niche, all that stuff. They get too woo-woo about it because they probably attended some seminar where the seminar person is just talking about stuff like that. And if you apply it in real life, people will literally look at you like you're stupid. Like, what do you do for a living? I'm in the people business. I provide value to others in the world. People will look at you like, what are you talking about? Like, are you an attorney? Are you a real estate? What do you do? Like, that's literally what would happen. And the same goes with like the niche and all that. People overthink it to the point where they make it complicated. Do not make it complicated. You simply say, I'm a freaking motivational speaker. That's what I do. I'm a sales speaker. That's what I do. I'm a leadership speaker. That's what I do. You do not overcomplicate it. Too many people keep overcomplicating stuff. Makes me want to pimp slap them. Don't overcomplicate stuff no matter what. But basically inside Speak Pro Academy, we talk about everything. I mean, we go into details about everything. Let's see. Pamela said, yes, everyone with knowledge isn't necessarily a good teacher. Yep. I actually think I'm a horrible teacher, to be honest. I'm just way too impatient. Like I'm insanely impatient. I try to get more patient, but I'm insanely impatient. But yeah, exactly what Pamela said. Everyone with knowledge isn't necessarily a good teacher. Let's see. Let me answer this other question here. And by the way, if you guys have any other questions, make sure you ask them. Let's see, he said, all right, so, okay. So what process do you use to evaluate whether or not an opportunity different from your current focus is worth exploring more? I like this question. So basically, let's say you have a focus. Like I have a focus. What's going to naturally happen is people are going to, other opportunities are just going to naturally start to pop into your focus. So let's say you say, all right, all I'm going to do is just get paid speaking gigs. What's going to naturally happen as you start building your business is people will say, hey, how about we do this interview? Or, hey, can you come out and do this? Hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. Hey, I've got this opportunity for you to write a book. Hey, and so all these opportunities are going to pop up. How do you determine which ones to do and which ones to ignore? So how do you kind of stay focused? With me, I have blinders on. I don't care how big the opportunity, well, no, not how big the opportunity. I almost don't care how big the opportunity is. The opportunity has to be so much bigger than what I'm currently doing that it would literally replace what I'm doing. That's the only way I would replace what I'm doing, which is almost, it's pretty much rare, if ever. When you say, here's what I'm going to do, like you say, I'm going to build an audience, I'm going to sell a program, I'm going to speak on stages, and you have blinders on, right? You have blinders on, and someone comes along and says, hey, we have a publishing company, would you like to write a book? You say, nope, get out my face. I'm not interested. Get out my face. Get out my face before I send my friends to beat you up, before I send my mob friends to beat you up. And so it's like you have these blinders on because in order to become really successful, you have to say no to opportunities that will make you just as much money, if not more, than the current thing that you're focused on. The reason why you do that is just discipline in general. It's just to practice the art of being disciplined. And I remember like Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, he literally said the key to his success is just saying no. He's like, everyone keeps saying yes. He's like, I just say no to everything. He's like, I say pretty much no to everything. Dinner, everyone wants to do a dinner. Everyone wants to me to invest in Facebook, whatever. He's like, nope, 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 nope. He just says no to everything. And so, that's essentially what I'm doing as well, to where I say no to pretty much everything. I think here's the focus. I'm trying to grow this thing. If your opportunity isn't within this and it's not better than the thing that I'm doing, the answer is no. And so that's kind of the mindset that I'm on. So let's see. Mike said, how can I figure out what the pain points are for my audience? Okay. Oh, before that, I want to answer Michael Ross's question. So Michael Ross talked about, can you talk a little bit about the transition from entertainer to motivational speaker? So this is essentially what you want to do if you're transferring from anything, like from a job to motivational speaker, from any industry to motivational speaker. The transition that I made, it was more of like a mental transition to begin with. So in the beginning, I said, okay, I'm definitely a motivational speaker. I identified myself as a motivational speaker for one. Then I literally changed the brand. So I went on the website from entertainer. I said motivational speaker. I just changed literally words. That's essentially what I did. In the beginning, though, I didn't actually speak. The reason why I changed to motivational speakers is just because I realized speakers get paid more than entertainers. I was like, well, all right, and let me back that up as well. So the reason why I focused on getting paid more is because I got so good at getting on stages and contacting events, I got bored with the whole process. And the only challenge for me was to charge more money. That was the only challenge for me. It wasn't, I got my process down. I knew how many people to contact, what to say to them. I got the whole process down. I just got bored. I was like, shoot, what the heck? It's no challenge. Then I said, all right, the next challenge is let me just freaking keep increasing my rates. That's when I realized in order to increase my rates, all I had to do was call myself a speaker. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to actually speak. I could just call myself a speaker. And so for a whole year, I was a speaker, but I just did entertainment shows. I still just did mentalism shows. And then eventually someone asked me to speak. Then I kind of created a speech, right? But the biggest shift that you have to make is you essentially have to decide, this is the thing that I'm going to be. That's the biggest thing that you have to do. That's kind of what I did. So let's see. All right, and then the next question was, all right, so Mike said, how can I figure out what the pain points are for my audience? All right, how students manage money after college. Okay, so to figure out pain points, one of the things that I do all the time, so let me show you this, is I go to this website, Quora, and I do a search on this website. So it's like if I'm looking at marketing, you can look at all the questions people are asking in marketing. And in your case, let's say you say students managing money. So I might type in money management here. So we could type in money management. I'll look here in terms of this. And then I'll also go to Amazon. And then I'll look on Amazon. And I'll type in like money management, or like in your case, you can type in student money. I mean, it'd be harder. Like the more niched you get, the harder it is to find stuff on it. So first, that's the thing that I'm doing. Like, let's say this was something that's along with your niche. Then I'll read the reviews. I start looking at the reviews and everything that people are talking about. Like people that say like, oh, this book is good, but I wish they talked about this more. So I'll start doing things like that. That's kind of the research that I'm essentially doing to figure out the pain points. And then I do want to point out, I mentioned this in the last video, the only way to really figure this stuff out is to do it, and then you learn as you go. So in the beginning, you have some sort of hypothesis. You have to think like a scientist, right? So a scientist says, all right, here's a scientific method. You come up with a hypothesis, you create an experiment to test it out, and then you say, all right, what's the end result? That's what you're doing with business. With business, you say, here's my hypothesis. So the hypothesis for, let's see, so how students manage money after college. Okay, so my hypothesis for how students manage money after college is they don't. That's my hypothesis. Is after college they don't worry about money. They just go out and spend it. They now have to pay attention to it a little bit more because maybe they're out on their own at this point, and so now they got to actually look at how much they're paying with electric bills and stuff like that. But ultimately, they're probably the same as everyone else in terms of money management. So that's my hypothesis. Now I go out and test it. So now I start creating content to build the audience. I start creating ads to build the audience. I say, hey, if you want to learn how to manage your money, sign up to this email newsletter or whatever. I start creating content, start trying to sell them something, and I start to see what are they buying, what are the emails they're sending me in terms of the questions they're asking, and that's what I'm figuring out over time. You cannot figure this out sitting down trying to plan. This is where so many people go wrong. They sit there and they try to plan it. They're like, all right, let me figure out the pain points of my audience. Okay, I'm pretty sure they want this and they want this and they want that. Bam, pain points. I'm going to create a whole thing around this and build $1 billion business. Boom. That's what they think they can do. Instead, those pain points that you just wrote down is simply a hypothesis, and you have to understand that you're probably wrong. 90% of the time, you are wrong because you just don't have the information that you need to have to make the right decision, to say that these are the pain points, okay? So what you're essentially doing is you're looking at websites like Amazon, Quora. You look at people that you want to be like, people who are in a similar niche. You look to see what are the pain points that they're talking about. You look at all that. You create your hypothesis. You start producing. You start creating. Start selling. At that moment, people are going to start responding, saying, oh, I loved your email about this. Oh, I definitely want to buy your program on this. Oh, I definitely want to do that. Then you'll start to realize, all right, I'm getting there. That's the only way to figure it out. You can't sit down and just like plan it out. So that's kind of how you figure out. That's how you figure out essentially the pain points of your audience. It's a process. Everything is a process. Everything is rooted in uncertainty. Everything is rooted in uncertainty. This is why so many people struggle with everything they do, because they do not want to feel uncertain. They think that they can sit down and plan all the way to the end. They think they can have the vision that goes all the way to the end. It is impossible. You have to embrace the uncertainty to where you say, I can see a week, maybe a month ahead, not even a month. Even the further out it gets, the blurrier it gets, right? And so you can kind of see as far away as possible, as you can imagine, a day, a week, maybe a month. It just gets blurry the further out you go. But the rest is essentially really uncertain. That's why in the beginning I talked about the daily activities, where you say, okay, here's kind of the vision. Now let me get to the daily activities. I can focus on these activities. I can focus on contacting events. I can focus on ads. I can focus on content. I can focus on sending emails. I can focus on creating sales videos. I can focus on those, but I can't know where I'm going to be in a year from now. And so that's kind of essentially what you're doing. You figure it out as you go. You embrace the uncertainty, and then you just keep producing, and then you learn as you go. So Molly said, do you do classes in Las Vegas? All right, like a camp or 3-day retreat type thing to help us? No, I don't do a live thing in Vegas or anywhere just yet, and probably not for a while, just because I thought about it. The problem that I've always had with live events is I know people want to attend live events, but that's not what actually creates the result. That's not what creates the success. When you go to a live event, you're going to forget 99% of what you just heard. People go back, they're excited, they work on stuff for maybe a day, maybe 2, maybe a week, whatever. Then they just stop doing it altogether. They go back to their everyday life. The reason why I did the Speak Pro Academy the way it is, with the Facebook group and the way we do every week with the calls and everything, and like these online boot camps and stuff, the reason why I did that is because it emulates real life. A live event, it just gives you a ton of information. You think you're going to implement it, which you really don't. And if you do, then you implement it all wrong because there's no one there to guide you on how to implement it right. And so live events, like I said, people want to attend them, but I did Speak Pro Academy the way I did it because it emulates real life. So what I see are the real winners like Dave Davlin, who says, okay, I'm willing to do 100 emails a day. I'm willing to contact 30,000 people before I actually start getting a result. Then he hits like $250,000 in his first year. That's what happens in real life. At events, think about how many events you've been to and then you just don't implement anything. And so I wanted to emulate real life simply because I know the people who succeed in real life are going to actually succeed in real life. Like people who succeed in this real life simulation of the Speak Pro Academy, they're going to actually succeed like Dave did. Whereas if I do an event, I don't think anyone would actually succeed because there's so much information that you need and so much practice that you need to keep doing that 3 days simply won't cover it. So the best I can do in 3 days is simply motivate people to want to do more at the end of those 3 days. But once again, real life hits and then that motivation kind of goes away. So that's why I help create the environment of, all right, you can post inside the group. We do the calls every week and I focus on creating the environment for real life entrepreneurs. Yeah, I was going to go off on a tangent about entrepreneurs, but yeah, I won't do that. Let's see. All right. So Vince said, what would you say a realistic goal for a new speaker to go from $0 to making a living at this? Well, once again, so it's kind of like how I mentioned with Dave, right? It's like Dave went from praying to God to doing almost $250,000 in a year. I personally never would have been like, yeah, that's a realistic goal. If someone would have told me that, I would have been like, if he would have told me that, his goal was $250,000, I would have been like, nah, Dave, man, this is your first, you can't do that, man. Come on, man. That's literally what I would have said. I'm glad I didn't because he obviously accomplished it. You don't really want to think about that end goal too much. Your end goal should basically be blurry. It's like your vision. You say the end goal is to basically be on as many damn stages as possible for as much money as possible. That's like your end goal, right? Unless you're selling a program or whatever, but you have your end goal. Then you focus all your activity, all your purpose, all your vision, everything on the daily activities, on contacting people 24/7. That's how you want to operate. In terms of setting a realistic goal, I mean, the realistic goal, it essentially doesn't matter, because what you think is realistic, another person might think is unrealistic, and so on. So all you want to do is just focus on that one activity or two activities that you have to do to accomplish the big vision that you're trying to accomplish. That's essentially how you want to operate with your brain. The way I essentially plan my days, at least right now, is I use a tool called Asana. It's like a to-do list thing. So I use Asana, and in there I kind of create to-dos. So I say, here's what I need to do. And I just create like a ton of to-dos. Whatever's on my mind, I'm like, I need to do this. I need to do this. I create a ton of to-dos. Then I sort them out. I say, what's the most important thing that I got to do that's going to generate the revenue? And I move that to-do all the way to the top. And I kind of sort them out. I try not to have too many to-dos, all right? I try to just have literally like a couple, like 5 or something like that, if that. The rest of them, I just move down the list. I just essentially just say, all right, eventually I'll get to you. I'll work on you eventually. But the main to-dos are things like, all right, the prospecting and all that. So I figure out what are the main things that I got to do. Everything else, I'll eventually do it if I get around to it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Once I figure out those to-dos, then I go to my calendar and I essentially take the to-do, let's say the prospecting, I go on the calendar and I say, okay, I'm going to prospect for 90 minutes, then I'm going to take a 15-minute break, then prospect for 90 minutes and take a 30-minute break, then prospect for another 90 minutes. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. So once I know what I'm going to do, I go into the actual calendar and bam, I just schedule those out. And remember, I'm essentially taking all this and I'm making sure it matches up my OASIS strategy. The OASIS, the OACES, outreach, ads, content, emails, sales, videos. So if I'm not doing one of those 5, I'm pretty much saying, what the hell are you doing, Benji? Why aren't you doing one of these 5? What's wrong with you? And so it happens naturally too, by the way. So it's like even like with this video camera setup, right? So it's like the other day, I was thinking, you know what, I'm just going to change up this video thing. It's only going to take me a few minutes. It took me like an hour because I was like, oh, dang it, the lighting's all jacked up. Oh, dang it, now this thing's all jacked up. And so little things like that, you have to keep yourself in check to where you're like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I wasting so much time on this thing? I got to get back to work. And so that's essentially what I'm doing, like with the goal, with the planning, with everything like that, strategy, the whole shebang. All right, so... All right, I'll answer this question here. So Vince said, does your course provide speaking opportunities within your groups to give your students speaking time for critics and experience? So in terms of the speaking opportunities, there are guys like Dave who's posted inside of the group saying like, hey guys, I can't do this gig. You guys can do it. But I personally, I don't want to go off because I go off on this. I absolutely hate it when someone wants me to build their business for them. These are the people who I will literally unsubscribe them from my list. When someone says, can you book a gig for me? I'll give you a 25% commission. I'm like, unsubscribe, get off my list. You'll never make it. The reason why I know they'll never make it is because they want someone else to do the work for them and they want all the results. And so I thought about like putting up a list of events inside of the Speak Pro Academy because I have a ton of events, like just sitting inside of the CRM, and then we're constantly doing a lot of stuff with events. I thought about taking that list, putting it inside Speak Pro Academy, but then I said, you know what, I won't, because what I'm essentially doing is I'm making people lazy. In order to accomplish anything, you have to literally get into the mindset of doing the work. If I do the work for you, it's like a rich parent giving a kid money whenever the kid asks for it. And because of that, that kid is now a scrub. That kid is a loser for the rest of his life because he may have money, but he won't ever be able to do anything by himself. He is what I call loser. There are exceptions like Donald Trump's kids. Like Donald Trump, sure, he gave his kids money, but if you look at his kids, they're actually working for it. They're actually doing stuff for it. And so it's exceptions like that to where you say, you got to do something for this money. I'm not just going to give you money. Or like Bill Gates, what he did with his kids, freaking multi-billionaire, like the second richest person in the world right now. And then he's only giving his kids $10 million out of his billions when he dies, because he's like, hey, I don't want my kids to be scrubs. I don't want them to be losers. I don't want them to have zero ambition because I did all the work for them. And I think the same with speakers, to where I'm like, I can easily do a lot of work for the speakers. I can post literally 1,000 events inside Speak Pro Academy. But I think that would just make everyone lazy. Because when people say, like, how do I find events? And I say it's a mindset thing. You got to develop the mindset. What happens is if I find the events for you, you don't develop the mindset. You simply say, well, he found the events for me. So once you've gone through all those events, you now don't know what to do. You're just like, well, I don't know. I didn't train you. I just made it worse for you. And so it's one of the reasons why a lot of very wealthy people don't like go out and just give homeless people money, because they know they're basically making it worse. They're not actually helping the homeless person. If, on the other hand, the person gave them food, they're helping them. But giving them money doesn't help them, because they're just going to be back in the same place that they were yesterday and the day before and the day before if you just give someone money. They think it's helping them, but it's not helping them. And I think the same with speakers, to where there's tons of things I can do. I can easily go in there and build your website for you in like 10 minutes, like literally. I can easily go in there and just say, here's a ton of events that you guys can contact, and I just produce events nonstop for you guys. But I don't, because I know it would do more harm than good. So that's literally the way I think in terms of all that. And anyone who doesn't think the same way, I'm like, get off my list. I'm going to pimp slap you. Get off my list if you don't think that. If you want me to book gigs for you, 25% commission, get off my list, son. So that's literally how I think. All right. So we're way past an hour. Any other final questions before we're done here? I'm going to read some of the comments while we're waiting on the final questions. All right. Oh, my goodness, Benji, you're amazing. Oh, my goodness, Benji, I wish my husband was like you. Oh, my goodness, Benji, I wish my kids were just like you. I hate my kids. They definitely need to be like you. Oh, my goodness, Benji, you have beautiful eyes. Oh, my goodness, Benji, you're just so brilliant. Even Einstein has nothing on you. All right, all right. Any other final questions before we're done here? All right, so we'll be doing more of these Facebook Lives in time. I won't be doing it for a little bit, for a few days, because my mom is actually coming for a few days. So if you guys have any final questions, I'll wait a couple seconds. All right. We are done here. Thanks, everybody. Take care.